I'd like to call to order the Arts Commission meeting of July 24th, 2023. Arts Commission members will be participating from the council chamber. Public comments can be made in person or remotely via Zoom as a courtesy, and technical permitting, members of the public may continue to provide live remote oral public comment via the city's Zoom video conferencing platform. However, the city cannot guarantee that the public's access to teleconferencing technology will be uninterrupted, and technical difficulties may occur from time to time. Members of the public desiring to provide comments as part of the meeting are encouraged either to submit written comments at least 2 hours prior to the meeting or to attend the meeting in person. To provide a live remote public comment, join the Zoom video conferencing meeting. The meeting webinar ID is 898-9609-0588. The passcode is 289857. Should you choose to not provide comments but would like to view the meeting, you may do so on one of the following ways: YouTube Live, Comcast Cable Channel 1028, Rossmore Channel 26, Wave Channel 29, AT&T Uverse Channel 99, or live stream online the city's website. Okay. All right. Could we have the roll call? The secretary call the roll.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Meredith.
Here.
Commissioner Lamo.
Here.
Commissioner Klauber.
Here.
Vice Chair Dresser.
Here.
Chair Emanuel.
Here.
And Commissioner Baltazar is absent on a pre-planned vacation. Thank you.
I would like the secretary to introduce new staff members, please.
Absolutely. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you two new staff members of the Arts and Recreation Department who happen to work in my office. One is a community relations manager, and the other is a business manager. So we'll start first with the community relations manager. Hold on. This is Elizabeth Orcutt, both of whom have been with us for combined probably about a month each, roughly a month each. So it's my pleasure to have them as part of the team in my office upstairs. So I'll start with Elizabeth and then Kevin.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Elizabeth Orcutt. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm honored to join the Arts and Rec Department and the City of Walnut Creek in general as a Community Relations Manager, as Kevin mentioned. I'm coming from Diablo Regional Arts Association, so a familiar name. I know you know that our relationship between the Lesher Center was the 501c3 nonprofit partner, so I'm well aware of our relationship and the public-private opportunities. I also, in the last year and change, have helped out with a lot of the marketing efforts for the Lesher Center for the Arts as part of the strategic plan, which I also know you're very familiar with. Thank you for having us here tonight.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Kevin Gordon. I started, like Kevin mentioned, the other Kevin, about 3 or 4 weeks ago as the new business manager for the Arts and Rec Department. Recently, I was working at the Solano Transportation Authority, and previous to that at the City of Oakland. I'm very excited to be part of the Arts and Rec team and in this fantastic community, and look forward to working with all of you.
Welcome. Thank you. Yeah.
So you'll see both Kevin and Elizabeth in your future. Kevin will be presenting things like our budget, fees and charges, other policy changes potentially. Elizabeth will talk about some of our community efforts, including the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study. For some of you who've been here for a while, it's the economic impact of the arts here in Walnut Creek. So you can look forward to both of those in the near future. And I'm going to give them the okay if they want to go home, that's all right, or they can stay, whatever you'd like. So you don't have to stay if you don't want to, or you can go home and watch it at your convenience, whatever you like.
To reread all those
Yeah,
sources.
Jane will, the chair will read all the information again. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We'll move on to the public communications. This portion of the meeting is reserved for comment on items not on the agenda. Under the Brown Act, the Commission cannot act on items raised during public communications, but may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed, request clarification, or refer the item to staff. Secretary, Mr. Secretary, are there any speakers wishing to speak and make a public comment?
Seeing no speakers in the chamber. We also do not have anybody on Zoom wishing to make a comment. However, you did receive written comments in your packets that was addressed to all of you, and I'd like Steve Huss just to give you just a brief overview about this. Again, you can't take action on it, but I just wanted you to have a little bit of background and what may be asked of you by the artist as part of the communication. So, Steve.
Good evening, Commissioners. Stephen Huss, Public Art Manager. We received a letter from the artist Colette Crutcher about the project Ostro Restaurant and Cielo Bar project that you had approved in the past. And she stated that the project has been canceled. Her artwork is completed, but there's no location for it to be installed. We checked in with the planning department, and they said their understanding is there is no construction happening at the site. The property owner has indicated the previously approved project may not move forward, and we don't know of any other development planned at that property. We are also checking with the building official, though he's out of town right now, so just to double check on that. We also received an email you may have received, but the public has not seen, so I'm just going to read that into the record. It's a follow-up from the artist to her letter, and it says, to the Walnut Creek Arts Commission, I'm assuming you've received my letter regarding the Ostro restaurant situation. I'm eager to find a home for this work of art. And of course, my dream solution would be that it could go in the spot it was originally planned for under the auspices of a different restaurant. If this seems like a possibility, or if any of you have any other suggestions for me, restaurant, winery, high-end grocery store, olive oil company, etc., I hope you'll let me know. Thank you, Colette Crutcher. So this is public communications, so can't be discussed at this time on the agenda. You can respond as private citizens to the artist, not as a body. And the other issues are that it is a contract between the business owner and the artist, not the city's not party to the contract per se. But if you do have any ideas about where the artist might find a home, you can certainly contact her on an individual basis. As I said, we are just trying to verify that the project has been canceled and that there's no alternative location for it in this project.
Are there any questions of Mr. Huss by the commission? Okay. If not, I would like you to put your thinking caps on another day, not tonight. And if you come up with some ideas of who might want it or what places, or can we divide it up or whatever, why don't you just email me and we'll collect some ideas for a while and then try and respond to her. It's okay with you? Okay. Did you want to ask them?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. So when is that the right time to make about this? And it is not necessarily about this particular situation, but I think that it's a comment. I'll just make my comment. The comment is, I think given this experience of this artist, I think we should use this as a future, put it into our policy and how to address this. And hopefully we won't have the situation again where the artist isn't fully paid. And so we could and should address this into our policy going forward and how we approach it so that the situation doesn't repeat itself.
Right, so staff, here's that suggestion. Essentially, and Steve, you could help with this, the relationship between the artist and the developer or the property owner may be different from experience to experience, right? There may be a contract that says if this project's not move forward, you'll be paid in full. The artist was not paid in full.
Right.
So we don't have the ability to dictate that. It's whatever the artist works out. And so I would defer to Steve on your experience with that, but I assume that there are different relationships that are created between the artist and whoever's initiating the project.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't had this particular case happen in the past. Sometimes projects get canceled, and it happens to be, I think, that the artist had gone ahead and built the entire project. So, yeah.
Unfortunate. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, and we are hoping that it would move forward. If by some change of circumstance the project does move ahead, we will let you know. Thank you.
Thank you. And Steve, you'll also let us know any conversations that you've had with the developer once you get in touch with the right people?
Yes, I will also report back on anything more we hear from building or planning departments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on the consent calendar, the first item is the approval of the Arts Commission regular meeting minutes of April 24th, 2023. Does anyone have any questions about any items on the consent calendar? If not, can we have a motion to approve the items well, there's only one item. Approve the minutes of the last meeting?
I move approval.
A second?
I second.
And the secretary, please do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Meredith,
Yes.
Commissioner Klauber,
Yes.
Commissioner Lemo,
Yes.
Commissioner Dresser.
Abstain.
I abstain because you were absent at the last meeting.
Correct.
Thank you. And Chair Emanuel.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Under our considerations for the evening, we have several. And the first one is the approval for the proposed location and the ArtistNet test phase proposed concept for a mural in the storybook room of the Walnut Creek Library. At this time, I invite staff to provide a presentation.
Thank you. Good evening. So this project is a mural for the children's area of Walnut Creek's library, the Storybook Room. Walnut Creek Library is one of the busiest libraries in the Contra Costa Library system. The children's area is very heavily used for play and learning, with books and interactive offerings, including physical play units. It hosts storytime events twice a week with large crowds attending and many other activities and performances. And we have guests from the library who can speak to that more than I can. Library management is renovating the Storybook Room, and they are inspired to add an original mural to enhance the sense of wonder and creativity for children and families. This is a project initiated by the library, and they have raised the funds with a grant from Lesher Foundation. It is not city funded. The mural is really their project. However, as with any city building, the Arts Commission must approve any public art that is placed there. We worked together with the library to identify an amazing artist whose work was appropriate for this opportunity. We called through our pre-qualified mural roster to create a short list of 7 artists, which we presented to the library, and they nominated 3 as their top choices. We've all agreed that Net Tesfaye, with us tonight, is an excellent fit for this project. Our recommendation of Net is also serves our program's interest in supporting talented artists to enter the public art field. This would be the first mural she's created for a public space. This is the wall space for the mural, which I think is included in your packet. The mural will be approximately 7 by 21 feet, or roughly 142 square foot. The budget is $5,600 for the project. If approved, we expect to have the mural painted this fall, roughly an August and September window, and it will be painted on site if we can coordinate the schedule with the library, which is as the children's room is open and active. Staff is here to support the artist on working through the materials and methods in installing the mural. So tonight we request your approval of the selection of the artist to create this mural and her general conceptual direction. And what we're really interested in is your approval based on the aesthetic quality of her work and the suitability of the concept for the children's room. This is an image of her initial rendering of the concept. Some elements may change. It's based on the tortoise and the hare, or the hare and the tortoise, depending on how you come to the story, originally by Aesop. And the artist will evolve and grow the work, filling in interesting details. We are in a dialogue with the artist and library on the final version. And we do need to leave latitude for the artist's development and inspiration of the concept and some artistic license. So it's my pleasure now to introduce Net to show some of her past work. and to describe her concept. And she has some, oh, I'm sorry. I just got so excited. I'm sorry. I wanted to invite up Jenny Rockwell and Risati, if you could come and talk a little bit about the library's interest, and then we'll move on to the artist. Sorry about that.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. Oops. Hello. Thank you for having us. I won't wax poetic too long because I want Net Tesfaye to be able to speak. But I started being the manager. I'm the manager of the Walnut Creek Library, Jenny Rockwell, in September 2022. And the library services manager said that there was a project on hiatus since the pandemic when the Walnut Creek Library Foundation raised funding to do, an overhaul of not an overhaul, but an improvement of the children's area with furniture refresh, as well as a mural, and they had secured funding for that. So we got together with the Bedford Gallery folks, Eric, Emily, Stephen, and Risati, the children's librarian, to come together to develop a concept and a vision. And we loved a lot of the artists that were presented, but Net Tesfaye's mock-ups were wonderful, especially the tortoise and the hare is the one that we wanted to move in that direction, primarily because the library's strategic plan, goal number 1, the library champions personal and community engagement in literacy and reading to enrich our lives. And so we loved that she had these wonderful beloved characters from a folktale modeling the behavior that we encourage at the library. We also love the idea of creating in this dynamic space where there's all kinds of interactive components, an opportunity for conversation, which conversation is part of literacy skills, and also that we have books that are being purchased independently and didn't even know it, this one in particular, this board book, so we could actually point patrons who are excited at the mural to the in-print offerings that she offers as well. And what else? We believe that a mural would festoon the dynamic space with an added sense of wonder and creativity, enhance the multifaceted sensory experience of the library, associate the space with the joy of learning, playing, exploring, and using the imagination, create an opportunity for youth to witness the creation of public art, be a conversation starter, which enhances literacy, and create a jumping off point for complementary book displays about painting, murals, and public art, and complementary programs such as hanging butcher paper on a blank wall to invite other youth to model mural painting. So yeah, I don't want to go on too long. Do you have anything you want to add, Ree? No. Ree's the children's librarian who created some ideas for Net to work with. So, thank you.
While we're waiting, were there any questions for the library staff? Just trying to fill the time. Bill, sorry.
I have a question. We've heard that you might be changing furniture in the children's area. What does that involve?
Yeah.
And I say that just because we're seeing pictures of Net's work with existing, I think existing furniture, which looks amazing, so.
Yeah, and I'm really impressed with how the green of the crayon, which has to stay there, has these digital workstations, which helps with digital literacy. So that will be there, and then that orange chair as well. But I think the orange chair might migrate, but we have what's coming, a blob chair. And I do think we shared it. Did you see the blob chair, Net? Did you see? I think it's like kind of a, yeah, so there's the blob chair. And then the other part of the furniture won't be, it'll be in a different area. There's these banquettes where little benches and tables. So it's mostly those blob chairs, and it's a two-tone color that I think will be integrated well. Do you remember the color scheme for the blob? I think it's like a greenish. Yeah.
With this kind of emerald color.
Yeah, so I don't think it'll clash, and thank you for asking us to think about that before we asked for the mock-up. We sent pictures of those chairs. Yeah.
I'm even more excited now because the time has elapsed to invite Ned up to speak about her work, and we have a PowerPoint of some examples of her work. Come on.
Hi, my name is Net Tesfaye. Thank you so much for having me here. I am an artist and graphic designer and illustrator. I lived in Walnut Creek for about 12 years with my family, and it is such an honor to be a part of this project, as I have a 10-year-old and a 2-year-old who quite frequently visit this particular area where I'll be putting my handprints on there. And one incident in particular where my 10-year-old lost one of her teeth in that area where I'm doing my the mural. So it's just all coming into full circle. So I'm genuinely grateful for this opportunity. I briefly wanted to share some of my portfolio, a sample of my portfolio. Sorry, my shaking a little bit, get nervous. Just sharing some of my digital work. Not sure. This is a spread from an upcoming book that will be published with Brown and Ink and Company, out due in February. I'm sorry. This is another one of my spreads. It is depicting works of, or I'm illustrating a children's book about a very traditional blanket called gabi that is native to Ethiopia, which is where I am originally from. Most of my artwork embodies my cultural upbringing. You can see it through the bold colors and patterns, and just my voice shines through as I represent that, and some of these images depict that as well. And the other fun part about living in Walnut Creek and how culturally diverse it is, as well as just it's such an artistic community, and specifically dealing with Bedford Gallery in the past, it's always bringing opportunities to artists, and I've always taken some part of it, but also working through the city to have a few of my illustrations in the town, and this is one of them that has wrapped the utility box. This is in front of, or next to the movie theater. I have 2 of those, and then I've also participated in the there's a program, I believe it was a while back. Forgive me for taking a second here. It's with the waste company in the city, and they took the liberty to have artists commission different things, and it's just such a pretty town just to drive around, and being a part of that was a big deal. I've also participated in the community art gallery, where I've showed my work in the library, and I had about 26 different pieces of watercolor and ink, all original works. This is my family with me and Redford Gallery and a couple of the shows that I participated in. One in particular was The World of Frida, which played a really huge role in my art career, and always grateful for that moment. I do some. I participate in the community giving back in a creative way, and one of the ways I do that is through my children's school. As you can see, there's a coloring book that's going around that I hand drawn and put together all of it myself, and just a great way to give back to my community. And I do every year, the past 4 years with the school for Black History Month, I've introduced different ways to celebrate that month, and have provided some coloring pages to honor that as well. And you'll also see some samples of my work through a collaboration I did with a local organization called Rise Up Against Racism, where they showcase just different diverse books and unique libraries, and I've been fortunate enough to design 4 of those for them. And these are just some of my works on products that I've worked with clients, and these are my upcoming books. One of them you have in your hand. I just enjoy illustrating, doing anything that I can with all kinds of mediums and art. So even though I have not worked on a mural, I'm genuinely so thrilled to be there and take this opportunity to hopefully make my city proud. And thank you so much for your time. And that's regarding to the slide, but I wanted to quickly, briefly illustrate or explain to why this concept that I came up with for the library mural, okay. And as they stated, I provided 3 different concept ideas, and this was the chosen one, which all of them are dear to my heart. But this in particular, I really love because I grew up with the story, just like most of us have with Aesop's folktales. And just to briefly highlight what a fable is, just in case for those folks who are not that familiar with it, and it's according to the Britannica.com. Thanks for the internet. Some of the stuff I'm just gonna literally just got from there, so hopefully it resonates. Fables are like some myths feature personified animals and natural objects as characters. Unlike myths, however, fables almost always end with explicit moral message. For centuries, fables served as a crucial role of communication, a shared history, reinforcing culture, values, and calling attention to important traditions. So that's why I'm a huge fan of Aesop's fables. For their moral themes, lessons, and guidance that they provide children in such fun and whimsical way. They convey important lessons, life lessons, while also describing the world of childhood where characters often acted as in a childlike manner. Aesop's folktales, however, they're known for their lessons that we take away from misfortunes of others, that failure in life is okay as long as we learn the mistakes as we reflect on the steps that we can take to avoid them in the future. So as a mother of 2, I believe these lessons are even more relevant today than any other time. And as most of us are familiar with the story of the hares and the tortoise, we can appreciate the lessons from both animals' experiences. For the tortoise, the moral is the slow and steady wins the race, meaning that we must not underestimate ourselves, that if we don't give up and work hard, we'll succeed. For the hare, the moral is that the race is not always won by the fastest. It's a great reminder that we shouldn't look down on others, or that bragging or mocking others does not have merits. What really matters is completing a task and being proud of your accomplishments. So my hope is that in illustrating this, somehow, as they stated, it may not exactly be this way, and that's the beauty of being a creative, is that I get to take this concept and explore it a little bit more. But definitely the message is to convey to children who hopefully will see themselves in these animals in a fun, whimsical way, that imagination takes wild, and it's just, books are fun. We should have fun with them and just go nuts. I don't know. They're just fun, and I'm hoping that comes through with the mural that I be creating for them. So thank you for your time. Sorry, I'm nervous, but I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful, and now you can relax. And it's a wonderful concept, and we're very excited to have you doing this, and that the library is doing it. And so before we, do you have any more to say, Steve?
No, we were just going to turn it over to you for questions and comments,
Okay.
but the artist is here and the library staff are here.
Before we do that, though, I have to ask if there are any members.
Start with your question.
Oh, okay, all right. Questions? Sure.
Hi, so beautiful mural. I love the concept. I read on page 3 of the agenda report how the library didn't want words on the books or words on the mural at all. So would that mean you would take the word finish line away on that gray tree? Would you take those words away, finish line, as well? Does that include that?
I can. This just means that I would have to find a different creative way to illustrate this Aesop's message, whatever that looks like. I'm an artist, and I'm sure I'll find a way to figure that out, and hopefully we'll all mutually agree on something that's cohesive and makes sense for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Jill.
Hi, thank you. I see Joyce Hughes flowers above the mural in this mock-up. Do we know if Joyce Hughes flowers are going to stay there once the mural goes up? They will stay there? Okay.
Sorry, you asked a question that I want to make sure we have on the record. The answer is yes, they will be staying. That's what staff and library staff's understanding is that's going to stay, yes.
Thank you. And regarding Sky's question, is that a hard and fast rule, no words on the mural?
On page 3 of the agenda report, on the last paragraph, it says they have asked that the artist retain the image but remove the words on the books, as they do not want to give the impression that Walnut Creek Library is an English-only space, observing that since it would be difficult to include languages that would welcome and represent the numerous communities we serve, we think it is best to refrain from using words at all.
Thank you. Is the library, people have any comments about that while we're talking about it?
Yes, thank you. And I know, listening to what you're talking about with the Aesop, the vision of the moral of the story could potentially get lost if some of that isn't in words. But yeah, when we saw it, we love the ideas. But want to make sure we're committed to language justice and making sure that our communities understand that we are a multilingual space. We have multilingual books. We try to make our messaging, our flyers translated when possible. So I brought that up with leadership, and so we started thinking about ways to make it be a multilingual mural, and it seemed like it would get into a rabbit's hole. So no pun intended. So we thought maybe just having the tortoise and the hare are recognizable folkloric characters, and they're reading. So yeah, I think it could be something that could be explored. I just, we had to prepare this in time, and so that's kind of where we came to. So that's the rationale. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a couple questions.
Mhm.
I don't know exactly who the leadership is that you mentioned, but but you also mentioned that this is something you thought of.
Yeah.
So are you an authority on DEI issues?
Well, I don't know if anyone is an authority, but I know I try to integrate diversity, equity, and inclusion in all decisions we make at the library. So when we saw that there was a mural that only had one language and we are in an English-only space, I brought that up. And we tried to think creatively of how to retain the concept of having the books. And it was literally a couple days ago and trying to get ready for this meeting.
And why did you choose this project to implement this sort of idea of yours?
Oh, it's not my idea so much as just it was a concern that I had that I brought up with leadership and was trying to think of creative strategies on how we could address that concern. And we thought it was better to just go with no text rather than picking and choosing different languages on
Do you
our
think there
space.
could be other ways that you can emanate that idea of DEI other than interference, if you will, with an artist's creation?
Absolutely. I mean, like Stephen mentioned, that this is her vision, and it's something that we're in conversation about. So if you're concerned about that, I can bring it back to leadership on how we can continue to, figure out the best way to approach the concern of us not having a multilingual mural.
Thanks.
Yeah, I don't know if that would hold up. One of my concerns was I could see that being a complex, process, and I'm happy to see it through and take longer. So I don't know if there are timelines and deadlines that the public arts, I don't know enough about that. I didn't want to hold up production. So I would rather it be something where we could keep talking about it and take our time. So that's, if that's feasible. Yeah.
But when is this mural supposed to be up?
I think you guys were talking about fall. Yeah, working on it this fall.
Okay, so is that enough time for you guys to think about this?
I think that it could take longer for a conversation like that. Yeah, I mean, she's supposed to start painting, I think, in August, and so a conversation about whether or not because I started to think, well, what if we had some in Russian and some in Farsi and some in English, and then it's like, I don't know if the artist knows how to write in those scripts, and would we need a consultant about translation so that it actually would translate in a way that makes sense to the person speaking that language. I've just dealt with that kind of translation issue before, and it seems like a simple thing, but then it turns into this maze, and so we want to do it right if we were to do something like that, and we wouldn't want to rush it.
But the fable itself is in a book in your library?
Yeah, I'm sure we have the tortoise and the hare, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and do you have it in every different language?
No, we don't. It's not to say that we make sure that we don't have, that's the thing is, when I brought it up to leadership, they considered it and they created a screenshot of the census, the last sentences, let's see, and they say, I don't know if there's a way to share it, but only English is 69% of Walnut Creek language by age. And so there's 5% Spanish, 9% other Indo-European languages, Asian and Pacific is 15%. And
How's
then,
that relevant to the question I asked?
well, it's just that we would want to be representative of the communities we serve by making sure that the mural,
But your books are not all in different languages.
but we do strive for that.
Okay, but you chose to strive for that in this lady's artistic.
I just brought it up as a concern with a deadline, and then I brought it to leadership, and that's what they came back with. But it's not to say that that's a hard and fast rule. I'm open to conversation. It just seems to me that they wanted to keep things moving along. So, but we can halt production and bring it up with leadership if you're concerned if that's going to be something that would be a deal breaker for you.
Thanks for answering. Thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Could you be a little bit more specific? This wording and the use of words of DEI and whoever, diversity, inclusion, what's the equity and inclusion, for this specific library?
The wording, you designed the wording, right? And I love it. I love that she almost created a new moral in a fable, you know what I mean, and integrated it into her concept. And so that's really more the way she's playing with the moral of this story. So the wording is all hers. So I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool to have it translated, find a way to have multiple languages. And so I don't really, the actual wording is not part of the DEI discussion. I mean, she created the wording.
That was what the problem was. Didn't words.
Oh, I just didn't want an English only mural because I think, let's see if I did save the email that the library services manager wrote back in response. I just have to find it. Three pages of notes of just in case. I can't find it specifically, but I think that she said it would be difficult to justify some in other languages. Once the mural goes up, it's permanent, and if whatever language we pick makes anyone feel less included, even one person, then we've done a disservice. So that was more about the language that we use, not so much the wording and the actual content of the words.
Do you feel if you put up
What, you're asking my personal feelings?
the library?
I think that the idea with the library is to be inclusive and try to diversify as much as possible. So,
And when you present your storybook time, do you do it in different?
no, if you're asking if the concept, whether or not we want to have an English only mural is something that we would be able to apply to all of our services right now. No, we don't have a story time in every single language that could possibly be represented. We don't have collections in every single language that could possibly be represented. So it's not to say that we have that as a standard that we're implementing currently or anything like that. It's just that we're striving in this situation to leave words out so that it's mostly just imagery that anyone can relate to.
So I'm still not hearing how it leaves people out if these words are in.
Oh, because it's English only and we want to have multilingual spaces. We're not an English only library in general.
Do you have staff that speaks different languages?
We try, I think they try to hire. We have some, yeah, and they get sometimes some.
How many do you speak?
How is that
And
relevant?
Because
can I ask
it's
just from a
relevant
staff
because
perspective?
I
from a
feel
staff
like-
perspective, can I step
Yeah.
in for a second? Can I just take a step back?
Yeah.
We're talking about the concept of the art from the artist presentation to you, including the words. The language that the librarian speaks outside of English, I think is irrelevant to
I
the
agree,
discussion
yeah.
of the artwork. And so trying to get us a little bit focused on where we're going here.
you
which
give
is
me
your
a little
roles.
leeway, then maybe perhaps I can
I'm not
tie
being
it
a judge
together.
here. I'm just giving you perspective on what the role of the commission is, the arts
I
commission.
appreciate that.
So I'd say let's try to keep focused on the artwork itself. And Sky.
Well, where I was going with my question is, where do you draw the line?
But
I
don't you
mean-
think that's a really long, larger discussion that it's that, you know, at the library we have DEI things we're striving for, and in this situation we tried to apply those core values, but whether or not I can sit here unprepared to explain the entire library's DEI, you know, strategies and what we do, and I wasn't prepared for that conversation. I just was here to quickly, you know, express support for this wonderful artist's rendition of a folk tale and want to see if we could get that up to delight children. And they asked us for feedback, and we thought it'd be better to go with a wordless mural so that the languages would not be English only. And so I ran that by leadership with a deadline, and that's what they came back, rather than trying to make it a multilingual, to convey that language, convey that message that we're a space for all kinds of people.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Let me just finish my thought. We're a space for all kinds of people. In order to convey that becomes a larger conversation that might take longer than the art gallery has, but we're open to that as well. And I would just bring that to leadership.
I think we have another question from Commissioner Lumeau.
Hi. So, my original comment was just that, like, if you were to do a wordless mural and the tortoise and the hare is a story about a race, I think that finish line little banner could be more like something like a checkerboard or maybe like a flag, so that it kind of like signifies like a finishing point. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was just
Yeah, I think we're still in dialogue about how to make sure that we're not compromising your vision. So I think we were all trying to move things forward in time for this, but it's not like it's an ending conversation, and I'm open to hearing any kind of feedback by email or,
All right, I
Yeah.
think let's move along. Thank you very much for
Okay.
that.
thank
And,
you.
Now, do we have public comments from anybody? And is there anyone online that has called in or written? Okay, are there any public comments in the audience? Okay.
Chair, there are no callers into Zoom, and seeing no public comment in the audience. Thank you.
All right, so this is the time for commissioner comments. Who would like to begin? Okay. Yes?
Of course, I have comments. So, first of all, I think an artist should be given, once chosen and the concept is chosen, the artist should finish his or her piece as he or she intends, without the sense of limitation by a group who calls themselves leadership. We don't know who they are at this point. I also think libraries are information centers, they're community meeting places, they're a getaway to knowledge. It is not a place where you cut out words. It's not a place where you limit artistic endeavor. And we're here to protect that. And I would request that the library allow the artist to complete her work without interference. Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner Klauber. I agree with everything that you just said. On another note, I love this mural. It's so colorful. It looks great with the furniture and the carpet in the children's room. I do one of the public art walking tours, and I just did public art walking tour number 4 in July. And I always take my group through the children's section, even though it's not part of the official tour. And we always go to see Joyce Shu's Backpack Bugs, which are phenomenal. I feel like the children's section is kind of this hidden gem, and I really want the art community or those that are walking to see this hidden gem, even if they have no children that are ever going to go there. In fact, it might be weird for them to go to the library and go to the children's section just to see the art. So this is going to be a piece that I'm going to take the tour to as another one of those kind of standout pieces in Walnut Creek for them to see. So yay, thank you, it's beautiful.
Yes?
I really love this mural. I have like a little brother, and I just know that his whole entire school would just love to see it. So thank you so much for sketching up this beautiful piece.
I think the mural is wonderful. I was over there on Saturday, and that space just begs for some color on that wall. And I think it's really nice that it's going to be right next to the window. So when you're walking by at night and everything, even during the day, you're going to be able to see it. It's really going to brighten up that whole side of the library. So thank you very much. It's a wonderful project. And thank you very much to the library, too.
I agree with everything that's been said, especially about the mural. The use of words makes sense in a library, and it adds punch to your design. And many, many people who make murals are using words, numbers, and symbols to liven it up and to communicate things. And you seem to have picked exactly the right feeling about the fable, and the perfect ideas are on the book, and I believe that they should remain. and that I do not believe that it excludes anybody. But wouldn't it be wonderful if somebody learned their first words of English that were taken because they were learned because they were in front of that mural? So I welcome all newcomers to this country, and I know that it's a long time till somebody feels like it's home and they've left places of stress and strain. And when they come here, they don't know what they're up against. And everything that they do involves language and signs, and it's extremely difficult. But they persevere and they learn. And I think that it's every parent's dream that their child learns English as fast as possible and gets themselves into the mainstream. And so that every place that they can find an unusual viewing of English in a different kind of way is even more impactful than if they're in McDonald's learning how to read a hamburger. So it becomes a very, very important part of the library's obligation to the community. And what better way than to come in and see some words right away? And maybe the first word they learn is finish line. I don't know what it will be, but I know that can happen. I looked up the books in the library. All the books of Aesop's Fables are in English. There's not any in another language. I know that children pick up books and some learn a few words from them, and English learners as well as any child learning to read. And all the books in the children's room many of them have words. Children learn from just the pictures, or they learn a couple of words and put it together, and it may be the first place that they learn how to read. I also know that libraries are the center for people learning English as a second language and run literacy classes, and those classes are in English for the very reason that people need to immerse themselves in the new language to do their business and further their families' growth and safety. Library story time is in English. So I can't understand why you wouldn't leave the words, and I fervently ask you to go back to the staff and rethink this and allow those words to be there and not have blank, wordless books on this mural. So, are there any other comments?
Just a comment. To your comment, it's fantastic. Thank you. And just to highlight that, I am an immigrant myself. I came here at a very young age. I did not speak English. And it was because of the books in the library and the librarians who came to my aid with books for children that I was able to learn English. So this goes to the core for me, and I really feel strongly that when you remove words, you remove knowledge and the ability for people to seek it. Thank you.
Are there any further comments? Questions?
May the artist comment?
Yes.
May the artist make
Certainly.
I just wanted to piggyback on that comment you just made. I'm also an immigrant. I grew up in Ethiopia until I was 13 years old. And ironically, how I learned English is through children's books. So while I truly appreciate the library's concern, because a part of my art practice is also making sure that diverse groups and voices are heard on a different stance. But the reason that I chose the English writing or words or verbiage for this particular mural, again, this was just a concept of 3 that I provided. So as a creative, I could tell you that some of these things will remain, but not everything is going to be exactly how you see it, because we're artists, things change. That being said, the concept originally for me, that the whole idea of doing it as a fable or illustrating a fable in a this type of way, is the words, and outside of that space it says story time in English. And so I saw that, and immediately all these ideas came to me. Again, it's not to say that I disagree with them, because I also share their sentiments and the inclusivity that they're trying to provide for all of us. I genuinely appreciate that because I am an immigrant. But to me as an artist, that makes the most sense if this was some type of ethnic, there's some kind of, what's the word? Not necessarily ethnic, but this is just a children's, the concept is very light. It's very universal. And that being said, I actually happened to bring another Aesop's folktale, but this time it's all written Amharic. You're more than welcome to take a look at it, but I do agree that in a space like the library, where most of the books are English, I am afraid that this might get lost in translation. I am an artist, however, and I'm very confident that I will find a way to communicate that if we do decide to go in that direction. So I want to make sure that I am open for doing that, but I also want to make sure that it is understood where this concept came from and the appreciation that I have for the English language. I'm pretty sure it's clear by tonight that I still have an accent and I'm still learning. And so to me, English will always be my second language, and that I'm always constantly, I've been in a book club for over 12 years, that books, the language in general, all of that means a lot to me. So at the same time, I appreciate what the library is, leadership is trying to imply. I just want to make sure that you all understand where my concept comes from, and that it's also my wish that I get to keep the language. I think it makes the work a little bit more clear. But I'm also an artist and confident that I can find a million different ways in graphics to make sure that you get this is Aesop's folktale of the tortoise and hare. Just if this helps in any way. I just wanted to insert my 2 cents.
Thank you. You're very inspiring, and it's a wonderful project. And so we'll be beside you. So, okay, we are being asked to approve the location and the artist and the concept. I guess just the artist and the concept, I guess. And so do I have a motion?
I move that the commission approves the artist, the location, and the concept for the mural at the library.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
Anyone have any questions or amendments or anything to the motion as it stands?
I'd like to make an amendment that we approve the proposed location, the artist, Nat Tesfaye, and the artist's proposed concept for a mural in the storybook room of Walnut Creek Library, without outside interference.
Do I get a second on that?
If you get a
do you
second,
mean
staff
as
will ask.
proposed?
Yeah, staff will ask a question if you get a second.
Mhm.
Ask for a second.
Okay, is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Staff's question is what is the person who commissioner that made the motion? Would be helpful for staff to have an understanding of outside interference, because that can mean any number of things. So for us to be able to help the artist, the library, and staff understand
Yep.
the direction you're providing to us would be helpful.
Thank you. So the outside interference would include library staff.
Right. So staff seeking to understand what outside interference means.
Library staff,
No,
so
what
that is
outside
not an
interference would-
artist.
Right. So interference means what in this
Yeah, maybe
concept?
we can smooth out the word interference and say.
Well, staff would like to understand what the goal is of this. If you are saying approve the concept, the artist's proposed concept, the artist's
Yes, the
proposed
artist's
concept,
proposed
that would
concept.
be helpful as written in the staff report. That would be helpful.
Okay, so would you want to say approve the concept as presented by the artist?
Yes, that works.
Well, again, the original motion included the artist's proposed
Included the
concept.
artist, yeah. But what we're hearing is that that the artist's concept, the proposed concept, has outside
What you have in
sway
front of you
that.
on the screen, sorry to interrupt you, is the artist's proposed concept. Is that what you are seeking to approve this evening?
Yes, if it's solely the artist's concept.
I think what you're trying, am I correct in assuming that what you want to say is that you want to approve the artist's concept without any changes?
Correct.
Or,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just have to say here, this is a conceptual direction that the artist is going to evolve. It is not set in stone. It is not meant to be that way. It was not presented to you as a done project. It is because our interest in serving the library as a client. It is their project. We brought this concept to you so that we could move the project forward, and we want the artist to have the latitude to develop it further. And you heard her speak eloquently about looking at ways to express the concept that would work for her as an artist and for the library. So if you approve it, you need to approve the conceptual direction. I certainly, you're well within your purview to say, we advise or we would prefer that there be language in it, but that may not be what the artist ultimately chooses to include. It is not a finished project concept. That's the difference, is that we're bringing a couple of projects, and the TICE will be the same to you. It's not final. That's what we don't do. The Art Commission doesn't art direct. You have to give the support to the artist based on their quality of their work, their portfolio, and their vision. So I think your directions or your suggestions are obviously welcome, but it is not locked in stone. And as such, the artist may think of different ways to improve upon, to express the concept.
Right. I understand that. So the artist has definitely the ability to have flexibility in her thought and how she wants to carry her concept today forward. And I don't think we're saying that there is an issue with that. So if that's what this recommended action means, then I'm fine with it without amendment.
okay,
So, yeah,
who wants to restate what we said?
I can restate it, which is just written in front of me, which is I motion to approve the proposed location, artist net testify, and the artist's proposed concept for a mural in the storybook room of Walnut Creek Library.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Right. Can the secretary call the roll for a vote?
Certainly, Commissioner Klauber,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dresser,
Yes.
Commissioner Lemo,
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith,
Yes.
Chair Emanuel.
Yes,
Motion carries. Thank you.
thank you very much. We'll look forward to seeing what you come up with. All right. Moving along, we'll go on to the next consideration. If the artist still wants to come forward. Okay.
What's the item? What's the item? What's the item? Oh, 4B? Okay, yes, absolutely. Good evening again, Commissioners. This is the Tice Valley Gym mural project. The artist was actually approved by the Commission for this project years ago, since 2019, when we first made plans with Nigel Sussman. He has only become more accomplished and in demand, and we are very fortunate to have his continued interest and enthusiasm for our project. As in your report, this project was originally conceived as a mural plus metal artworks, both using recycled materials. And that plan fell through because it would have been be funded with Recycle Smart funds, and there was too much demand at the city to be able to fund everything. So with rethinking, we eliminated the metalwork part of it, which really would have been a much lesser impact than the murals and not really suited to the strengths of our chosen artist. We think that the project will have the same dynamic impact for most viewers with the large-scale mural alone. This is a very exciting opportunity to make a big splash in a robust residential neighborhood that is very much underserved with public art. The mural will also celebrate and serve the recreation side of Arts and Rec, our own programs at our own gym, and how often do we get an opportunity to do something like that? The building is interesting in terms of architectural style, particularly the rounded bump-out lobby feature, full of windows, and the colorful portico. But, you know, the building also confronts visitors with big expanses of raw concrete wall. And these are going to be perfect blank canvases to be warmed up with Nigel's whimsical, engaging, and fascinatingly detailed style. He has studied the location and the neighborhood, and his concept has further been informed by a community poll we conducted online and also in person at Tice Park on July 7 as part of Movies Under the Stars. We received something in the range of 30 responses to that, and the poll was also a way to give the community a heads up on the mural coming and generate more enthusiasm and anticipation about the project. It was not a vote on what goes in the mural, but it was helpful input for Nigel as he develops it. For this initial proposal process, Nigel is focused on the main wall, which is this wall. As you approach the building, it's to the left of the entrance. As his primary site, some echoes of the main concept will find their way onto the side wall, seen on the left side of this image, and possibly the forward wall of the building, which is in this image, where the numbers are in the far right, dependent on budget and so forth. I'm going to have Nigel come up and speak to this, but just briefly, this concept, again, is a rough rendering of the artist's initial direction. It will recognizably be the same image, but it's going to evolve and grow, as we mentioned earlier with the library mural. We must allow the artist latitude for his development and inspiration. Our plan, again, is to have the mural painted in the fall. This is a larger contract project, so it depends on our contracting process with the city and the artist's schedule, but we're going to try to get this going in the fall. So we do need your approval tonight of the conceptual direction moving forward with Nigel to further develop his concept and execute the mural. We have some images of past work. I'm going to invite Nigel Sussman up, talk about the concept, talk about the work. So I've got these loaded up and head here.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Hello, Commission. Thanks for inviting me here and letting me present. It's an honor to be considered for this, and I'm excited to collaborate with the community and make something nice and big and fun. Yeah, like Steve was describing, this is very early stages as far as the design processes go on making something like this, and is more about establishing a sort of a basic look and feel of it. It will help to show other examples of finished work to see how this might manifest. But this is proposing a concept of, it's essentially a big aerial map of Walnut Creek, but in a highly stylized way that's wouldn't really be navigable. But there's a main, Tice Gym is featured nice and big in sort of the bottom middle. There's a blue deer below it in the woods behind it there. But it's a big box, and there's some parking lot, and it extends up to the green area where there's people watching movies and playing sports, and these are a lot of the nuances that I gleaned from that were important from some of the public's feedback, and it was resounding that some of the outdoor activities and people's dogs and the art that's in the community is some of the major things to highlight. Geography is a nice way to organize that, and so I've put there's Mount Diablo in the upper right, and the way that the freeways intersect, and then the commercial district of Walnut Creek is nestled in between those main freeways, and there's the BART comes up. The BART is pretty small, but he's up in the very top left there. And this level of detail in this illustration is I understand I'm asking a lot to everyone to use their imagination, but it's part of the process is understanding the full general layout, and then each iteration of design will get progressively more detailed until I've translated onto the wall by hand with brushes and exterior house paint, and some of the final artistic the detail is realized in paint rather than even using the time to do a perfect sketch, because I want to allow it to evolve and on the wall, because when translating something from this scale to the scale that we're talking about, it's a different level of what's visible. It's hard to describe, but it's something that I feel comfortable with and confident that I can execute. I've done a number of experience working at this scale for municipalities and private entities. For the last, had my own business painting murals for the last 10 years about, and over that time I've painted at least 200 murals, and in varying scales. This will not be the largest, but it will be up there. Let's see, what else do Steve had? This is the same image superimposed onto the photograph to kind of really roughly understand how it might fit in context. What I will develop is picture so that everything is equally legible and equally distributed. And so what happens with an image this detailed at this scale is, from a distance, it will give a different sort of effect than it will up close. So people who see it from Rossmore or from the street or from the road, which is a couple hundred yards away, it will be a little bit more, it will be graphic and more like a pattern, and a little bit more, it won't be the choice to not have a super bold hero image is a conscious one, because I feel like that's at this scale, if there was just one big head or something, the people who live next door, is more of a jarring kind of effect than something where from a distance it will be like a toile or a non-repeating pattern that just kind of blends in and becomes almost abstract from an extreme distance. And then as you get close, the viewer will be rewarded with hundreds of moments of discovery, and hopefully keep people engaged upon repeat return to the site, and be able to see different things in it that relate to them, because I'm going to try to fit every single suggestion that we received from the community, along with some that we've researched ourselves, and with my own experience with the community. My wife's parents live near here, and so even though I don't live in Walnut Creek, I live in Berkeley. My family is connected to this community through my extended family and through being in the Bay Area for almost 20 years now, something like that. Time goes by fast. but I feel qualified to understand what it is that is important to the community, and represent a lot of with a careful eye to making sure that it's universal and diverse, and kind of covering as many experiences as I can. But there's a lot of room with something like this because there's lots of little things. So I'll make sure that we represent everything. And as we go through this process, if anyone notices something that's missing, up until actually putting things on the wall, I can add and remove and finesse. I feel like this is probably a scenario where I'll try to be pretty true to what we get final approval on by the committee here, but I do often like to, especially when working in public places and with the public on the street, like reacting to passersby and having their the local community's input on the fly sometimes adds for a really nice kind of unexpectedness and even more of a collaboration between me and the community, versus just imposing my idea on the community. But an aerial, a map of all the things that make Walnut Creek special is something that only could be put in Walnut Creek. So I've done work. Let's see what's next in this. There's some examples. This is a shot of a painting, this is smaller than what we're talking about, but about half the size, I guess. This is a corporate one that depicts a map of Tempe, Arizona, and with a food skew because it's for the company DoorDash, and their business is food. So this is in their corporate offices. This is portion of a mural in Emeryville that was a public commission by the city of Emeryville. That is probably a best comp for this project because it's a similar scale, and it's we went through a very similar process of public reaching out to the public to ask their input. And we netted out with a stylized map, which highlights what people felt was it's about the landmarks and some of the local iconography and the places that really make any place unique. This one doesn't really feature the people as much. I guess there's a few people doing sports, but I'm planning on leaning a little bit more into human representation in this Walnut Creek one and make it more like a little sort of a seek and find kind of aesthetic, which I find has lots of people gravitate to that. I mean, myself, I'm biased, but for kids and adults and everyone in between, I feel like can find something in this type of art, especially if it's not too silly. We're gonna make it like fun, but kind of true and classic at the same time. It's the goal. Here, what else do we have here? This is a seek and find style mural. Granted, this one's just from the early this year, or end of last year. I was at a hotel lobby in Manhattan in New York for a new Virgin hotel there, and there's a little Richard Branson hidden in there. That's the point of the mural, but that's what they wanted, and it includes of people interacting in the city, and at this scale and size. I'm sorry I'm not giving you something you can zoom in on and appreciate, but it gives a different, it does illustrate that it gives an effect from a distance, and then as you engage with it and get closer to it, that you take away more things and find all kinds, try to inject it with humor and kind of positivity, and that's enjoy. And ultimately, all of these, my main goal is to try to create something that is going to make people happy. And then, okay, I went too far.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what more I have to add. I could ramble about the value of public art and about my passion for it forever, but I don't want to get off the rails here too much.
Thank you. We'll have some questions, but before we ask our questions, is there any public comment, or do we have
And
any?
you start with your questions, and then you do public comment.
Oh, you want? Okay, all right, start with our questions. Any questions?
I have a question about more of the building itself. What is that ivory, like, looking box thing? It's in the picture of north elevation, like, right there. Like, yeah, what is that?
That's a that's a bike storage, and they're going to move that.
Okay, thank you. And then, like, the tree is definitely going to be staying there too. I didn't see it in the actual mock-up of the. There was a mock-up with the sketch and all that, and all of the obstructions were completely, like, erased
Right.
from the.
Do you remember if it's? Sorry.
Yeah, they were all, like, erased from this
Right.
image, but I was just wondering if they were going to stay or if they were.
There is, yeah. You want me to try to speak to it?
I just can't remember.
So there was some thought of having the tree removed. I mean, I'm in the it is represented in this picture. It's seasonal. This one was taken in one of our earlier visits with Steve at the site, and it was fall, and there's not very many leaves on this tree, and over time they're flourishing and getting bigger, and but I think one of the strengths of this particular type of concept is that even if it were partially obscured from certain angles, it wouldn't change the meaning, and if someone got up next to it and looked up, they'd still be able to see the part that's hidden. I wouldn't never vote to remove a tree if I could help it, but if the management thinks it would improve it, but I don't. It's not, as far as I see it, it's not something that will affect how I approach this, and we'll make sure that it reads and doesn't ruin the concept either way.
Just one quick question. I'm going to be jealous of the Emeryville birds that are on that mural. And did you know that Walnut Creek has a massive migration of birds going through Walnut Creek's different water spots throughout the year? And so I have a neighbor who keeps track, and there's something like 72 different species of birds and things that fly that go through Walnut Creek. So,
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I mean, the flora and fauna of any particular location is one of the main kind of things that I focus on in making a placemaking work like this.
Mm-hmm.
And that information is something that is absolutely, I will try to add. I don't know, like, that's also real good fodder for, I mean, I did that on Emeryville. Often I'm going to have to, I'm blanking on, I'm sure Walnut Creek has like a official, you have like official bird or an official flower and official, all those kind of things. And even if they're anecdotal, I feel like that's something would be worth having it include either at very, very least in a small way where it becomes just a piece of this. The Emeryville one, we had the bird as a hero just because there was a section of the wall that was felt like it needed that. And I mean, I'm also, again, ultimately my goal with any work is to not, it's about me trying to help the vision through my filter versus me impose something. And I'm always amiable to push and pull the concept and add and change things. But the suggestion of adding more birds is a great one, and I'm 100% on board. And I'll do some part of the research to make sure we get species that are relevant and try to highlight that. I'm sure you might help me with a list.
I'll ask my
Yeah.
neighbor to send you photos.
Yeah. But
I have two questions. How did, oh, I'm sorry. Anybody else? I do. Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to hear the feedback from the Tice Valley movie night on what they wanted to see changed or what they liked about it. That's not my only question. I want to ask that first, and then I'll ask my other questions.
so the way that we formed the feedback was try to guide it rather than just saying open-ended, what kind of mural would you like? We guided it to sort of some multiple choice and some leading questions about what specifically made this Tice Valley, the gym, and Greater Walnut Creek important to them, and like highlighting what activities they like to do there, and what made it, how they use the space, because I think that ultimately that's how people use this, and what we intend it to be used for is going to help make this feel relevant. So therefore, I guess it's hard to tell at this scale with how scratchy this sketch still is, but I'm leaning into lots of sporting people doing different sort of sports activities together, and those were lots of the comments that people had were how they like to run there and walk their dogs there and play volleyball there and ride their bikes, and it seemed like that was a big majority of it were just about helping me decide which of those activities are the most important.
Thank you. My next question is about what we're actually voting on. Is it going to be this wall and the wrap? Are we not voting on any mural that goes underneath the address? So at this point, where this is going to be the concept
Yeah.
that we're going to vote on?
So I have not put together anything to address those areas. What I was hoping to achieve this evening is an approval on this general direction on this part of the wall will inform the other part of the wall, because I would want them to be cohesive, and so essentially we might find that actually might be the spot for like a vignette of this to be highlighted or given a special status by re-establishing it, or not copying it, but reiterating it and having it be its own separate piece up towards the entrance of the building, but using the same motifs and color palette, and sort of the look and feel would be the same. So so if this flies, then it will then we won't have to go through as many rounds trying to get the other one right, because half the decisions will have already been made.
Just so we can be clear, Vice Chair Dresser, your question was, will the concept of the mural include the other, and I don't know if, Steve, we have an image of it, I know it's in the staff report, underneath the address, the big lettering or big numbers for the address. Steve, I don't know if you can address that. Yeah, so the two where it says 2055 on the right, was that your question? Yeah.
Yes, so, and correct me if I'm wrong, so Nigel is going to use that front. I don't think it's not going to be as filled with imagery. If you approve this direction, he's going to continue to evolve the main wall, and there'll be some echoes of it on the wall with the address, as well as around the corner from the main wall, so that you get this taste of it. It's really extended the concept, and he's fleshing it out, so eventually he'll find what he wants to put on that wall. That's it.
So, because what I see in the picture in front of me, thank you for putting that up there, under the 2055, that's a big piece of blank wall.
This photo is a little deceiving in that it's just out of frame is a bunch of windows, and the wall has a lot more architectural features on it that kind of make it less of a big palette. It is prime spot for something, and I'm as part of this overarching project, planning on making sure that something gets put there. I'm not going to leave it out.
So am I correct in saying that what we're going to vote on tonight is going to include also the sort of the concept for that part of the wall, and that includes already the budget, that's already been budgeted for, this whole thing, but we're only seeing the kind of flesh out for the left side of the wall?
You're correct.
Okay. My next question is, what we're seeing in the picture right now looks fairly different than what we got in our package. Is this the latest iteration of the mural?
This is developments that I've made since that was printed, I suppose. It's the same idea in spirit. I've added a little bit more detail, and I'm also suggesting a slight bit more color, even though the palette is limited on purpose, just because I think at this scale, trying to do too much can feel overwhelming.
Well, and the gym has all these turquoise accents, so I like that the turquoise is in there because there's so much turquoise on the building. My next question is, I can't find very many Walnut Creek landmarks. The mountain looks like Mount Shasta to me, so it doesn't show Mount Diablo at all. What are the landmarks I should be seeing here?
Okay. Yeah, that's where some of the detail will start to pick that out, and I admittedly, so it is. Let's see if I can guide. Right in the middle, there's a little white bus, and near that there's the high school and a track, and that's north of the Tice gym, which I made a little oversized because that's felt relevant because it's like a "you are here," but then above that, some of them are just little boxes at this stage and have not been developed to be recognizable landmarks, and I plan on making them recognizable as we go forward.
I can see a BART train way over in the corner.
Yeah,
but I'm looking for landmarks. I see a lot of mostly men doing sports.
Yes, I will make sure that's absolutely make sure that there's a very diverse size, shape, color, ability of people in this. That's something I'm always very conscious of. Make sure that's not all male, make sure it's not all, I mean, I'm going to use the full palette that we have here. So there will be orange and green and blue people, and the gray is I'm going to leave some of the concrete, so the gray is representative, or not all of it, but it's representative of some of the textural concrete that's going to be there. There's a person in a wheelchair at the picnic table there. There's a person, but it's again, I apologize for the looseness of this presentation at this stage, and but I'd like to try to get buy-in at an early sketch, just so that it's easier for us to pivot and add and change as we go. So if I go down to a finished sketch, there's a lot less. It's a lot more resources to backpedal.
Question for Steve: are we going to see this concept as you further flesh it out before it goes on the wall?
We're not going to bring it back for approval, but you can see it before it goes on the wall as an informational update.
Okay.
Actually, Jill asked my questions, but I wondered just briefly if you could mention some of the responses you got from people in your community event to engage them to give you some ideas for what they wanted represented. Just a couple of them off the top of your head.
I mean, some of it's overwhelmingly positive. People are just excited at the idea of there being some color, and people asking what they'd like to see. They say, oh, I don't know, trees. Or I don't know, like mostly plants and like landmark suggestions and so like and dogs. Like I said earlier, so I could put my dog in there. And or there's a very he's very small, but there's right above the gym there. There's a little. It's a specific dog wearing a blue T-shirt. Is the mascot of the Tice. Kevin, remember what's his name? The dog's Gus. That's Gus. He's in there. Just I can see it, but it's hard for me to tell. But those kind of little nuances will become legible as we progress, and I will. We're going to do multiple more sketches, and I'm going to have make sure that the invested parties are improving each one before we put paint on the wall.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I have to put this into the form of a question because we're in the question period, but do you know that right behind those houses are the community gardens that the people of Rossmore do gardening there, extensive flowers and veggies and all that? So are you planning to put that into the mural?
That is a great suggestion, and yes,
Good.
yes, the short answer.
Right. Instead of grass being mown, we can have vegetables.
All right, are there any other questions? Now, okay, do we have any public questions or anybody online?
We don't have any speakers in the chamber or online. Thank you.
Okay, commissioner comments. Anyone? Yes?
Just based on your previous work, I'm really, really excited to see how this mural turns out. I think that it'll be amazing.
Oh, cheers, thank you.
I echo that. Yeah, that area of Walnut Creek is definitely underserved in terms of the arts, and I think something as diverse and colorful and fun for the community is just such a good start. It's awesome. Thank you.
Excuse me, that patio or that area where the umbrellas are in that one picture, a lot of people gather there, and I personally like to see the trees stay. I think they can be incorporated because that place gets incredibly hot, and so any type of shading and everything, that's really important. And I think it will fit in beautifully with what your concept is in terms of people. You just mentioned people really talked about the trees, so I think that
Yeah.
taking the tree out, I think, would send the wrong message.
Agreed. I would definitely would prefer not to have the tree removed because of the mural. I feel like that would be a bad reason to cut down a tree. I think we can make it work. And I've chosen the color palette. It's using the gray from the concrete, the blue from the turquoise blues from the trim, and then leaning into greens with a little bit of orange, which is also helps in spring. The poppies bloom on that side there, and it's a similar orange. And in fall, the trees turn orange, and so the palette will intentionally try to match and fit in seasonally and without ever clashing, and sort of being part of the environment versus be a yes, yeah. Sorry.
I like the concept on the wall much better than I do in our package. You added some color that, I guess that's that kind of golden or orange. I think that really helps it. My eye goes to the movie screen. The movie that's right in the middle of which I don't like. I don't think of Tice Valley Park as a place I'm going to go watch movies in a really bright screen. And I really want to see some true landmarks represented. Maybe not exactly, but I don't consider Las Almas High School or even Tice Valley Gym a landmark. Mount Diablo, for sure, I'd like to see that look a little bit more like Mount Diablo. So someone goes, oh yeah, that's Mount Diablo. I can tell. It's not exact, of course. And there's got to be some other landmarks in Walnut Creek that people go, oh, I know, I'm in Walnut Creek.
Yeah. There's a little rotunda there near the Civic Center at the park, which I'm missing some of the larger buildings. There's some people looking at art on an easel there, represented where the Bedford would be.
Yay to the Bedford.
I got to take more cues from the physical architecture.
I want some more of that.
I think that's a very, I agree with you in that that is one of the main things that I plan to develop further, is doing the research to make sure that, which I'm making excuses for why I didn't do it in this iteration, but I wanted to make sure that you're okay with the idea of doing an aerial view that features architecture. In transparency, I submitted a first round of designs, and this is what we narrowed, chose as the best, the most inclusive, and but I had some other ones that featured more about the architecture of the building itself and just plants. And I had
Maybe
one that
a little walnut orchard.
yes, a whole we have
Or a
the
walnut
black
somewhere.
walnut tree is
I mean, I want to be so literal, but I want to know that again, that I'm in Walnut Creek when I'm looking at this. Yeah, I love the color palette, and I think it's going to be a great addition to the gym. I'd love to see these red umbrellas that are currently at the gym changed out to a different color. I don't think I'm going to love the red umbrellas next to this mural once it's all said and done. So that's just a note for the record. You like the red and green together?
Well,
I know,
that's your
yeah,
attention. That's
complementary
complementary
colors.
colors next to each other. All right, so I just want to point out one other thing that hasn't been mentioned, that I think that you've solved a problem tremendously. We can go back to the one where you can see around the corner. But the one where you have the image, there you go, okay. I was really worried that it was going to be a totally demarcated area that on the side wall, and then there was going to be just plain cement afterward. And I think how you've just let it kind of trickle around the corner and kind of be there and you know, mosey on off is a perfect solution. And that's what I'd like to see happen under the numbers, just something that's there and trickles off as well for the balance of it.
Yeah, that's something I try to do in all of my mural work, is to avoid, make it feel natural and integrated with the architecture versus having any just edges where it just stops. So I like it try to bleed and fade, and I haven't decided how far down, but it would probably become sort of fade a little bit, become increasingly sparse as it goes down that wall, but still leave it in more and more negative space, because I think logistically and also just the way that the building's shaped and how that will affect the residents on that side of the building, I think the full brunt of it should be inviting visitors from the street versus the need for it to have everything be equal, I think, is not important. It's just everything needs to be considered, but not equal.
Thank you. Great. Okay, commissioners, are we ready for a motion? Commission action needed on page 5.
I'll make the motion. I move that the commission approve artist Nigel Sussman's concept for a mural on the exterior facade of Tice Valley Community Gym.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second that.
And can I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Meredith,
Yes.
Commissioner Klauber,
Yes.
Commissioner Lameau,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dresser,
Yes.
and Chair Emanuel.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. I'm all the additional feedback and suggestions is exactly the type of thing that I was hoping to get as we go through the process, and it will all help to inform a really thoughtful and well-rounded product here at the end that we'll all feel happy with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Cheers.
All right. So moving along, we have one other item under considerations, and that is for the approval of the mural matching grant program guidelines and authorization of opening the program to receive applications beginning in the fall of 2023. So, Mr. Huss?
Thank you. So as the meeting is running a bit long, I'm going to try to be a little briefer in my remarks that I'd planned. But so Just to recap, in January, the commission allocated $30,000 for the inaugural round of matching grants as part of your budget approval of public art fund budget. Our plan is to offer it every 2 years, but the commission can reevaluate after looking at the success of this first round, and based on the analysis of that, decide whether they want to go forward. We studied a number of mural grant programs around the country, excuse me, to see what worked for them, and we integrated best practices with our own policies and our own values to come up with these guidelines. The general policies we summarize on page 2 of the report in your packet. Program awards will be one-to-one matching grants, meaning we will match them dollar for dollar with the business owner or the applicant's contribution. We will award grants of up to $5,000 per mural. That's the max. Businesses in all areas of the Walnut Creek are eligible. It's not just a program for downtown. The applicant can be either a tenant, like a business, or the landlord, but the property owner has to submit evidence that they approve in the application. There cannot be any signage in the mural. Applicants have to provide a budget that identifies their matching funds, where they're coming from, and at least 50%. We will guide them on fair pay for mural artists rather than them setting the budget for that per se, working from a equitable cost per square foot basis. We will award only one grant per applicant per cycle. The review body will be the Public Art Committee. So they will look at the applications and they will make the recommendations to the Arts Commission to fund those grants. We will team the applicant with an artist from our pre-qualified pool, or if the applicant has an artist in mind already, we will consider adding that artist to the pool if they meet our standards. We hope to release the guidelines this October with an initial deadline of 6 to 8 weeks out. But from that point on, we'd like to have rolling deadlines so that as businesses want to include murals, they can apply and don't have to wait another year or so. But we may cluster the review process together so that it's timed to the commission meetings for the approvals. Several timelines are: murals need to be completed within 12 months of the commission approval. Artist guarantees materials and workmanship for 1 year after completion, defects and workmanship. And the applicant has to maintain the work for at least 5 years. These murals will not become part of our collection or our responsibility to maintain them, but we will monitor them and remind owners if they need maintenance. We'll contract with the artist and the building owner regarding these terms. So that's sort of a quick overview of the guidelines. So now we want to open it up for your discussion and any questions you have about the guidelines.
Anyone want to start?
I can't find the place in the document that I read this, but if we have one muralist who's got applications for several different properties, are we only going to accept them for one property in that cycle? I know we're trying to diversify our mural artists throughout the city and not have too many pieces by any one artist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a good question. So what we are saying is that we wouldn't award any one applicant, meaning the business owner, the property owner. Okay. I do think, though, that as a policy, we're going to try to continue to bring in artists that haven't done murals already. So we'd likely not, since our goal is to actually pair the applicant with an artist. So we would try to make sure that we've spread the work around. Yeah.
Good question. Anyone else have a question? I have a couple. First of all, you've done a great job from the first one that the subcommittee saw and the one we're looking at tonight. So it's much more readable and understandable. I have an addition. Oh wait, no, not a question. I guess I don't have any. Well, I guess I do. Is it okay on the first page to add at the end of the purpose statement where it says the program does not encourage a collection of historical depictions of Walnut Creek or literal representations of local environments or landscape landmarks? Can we add or other existing artworks?
And staff make a recommendation that does sound like a comments. So what I'd suggest is when you have a chance to get public comment, close that, and then we can bring it back to you for a suggestion on how you want to modify this and see if your fellow commissioners are open to that. The
Right.
staff will be open to modifications within the
Very much.
general
Mhm. Very open.
goals. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
Just rather than,
All
because
right.
Steve would answer yes, and then
Okay.
I'll come back to it later. So,
The only other question I have, and I think we should defer it till our next meeting, is that, is there, have there been any preliminary efforts on how we would outreach to the property owners or business owners to engage in the project? But I think because of the time of the meeting, that we may want to wait on that till a later point, or, I don't know, maybe, I'm not sure what we should do about that. But
if the question is when, you mean after you adopt this, what's our plan to reach out, or what have we
Right.
done thus far?
Well, I know we started a little list at the subcommittee, but we need a big effort
Yeah.
on that. I don't know how to.
Yeah, so
where to put
what
that in our discussion.
what our intent is, if this is something the commission approves, we would then, one of the things Elizabeth may be working on, is reaching out to the community and letting people know we have this program, how do you apply, what the goals are, et cetera. And so we could bring an update back to you at your next meeting with just, here's our plan. You know, we wouldn't seek your approval for it, but just give you a summary of what we're doing thus far and what our intent is.
Okay, good.
We hear you, don't just sit on this,
Right.
right? It's like actually tell people about it and make it happen. Yeah.
And so maybe the subcommittee could view
Mhm.
progress at some point. Okay. All right, I don't have any other questions. Anyone else have questions?
That was kind of my question. I wanted to see the milestones forward, and I think you just answered that. And so, thank you.
All right. Now, are there any public comments? No?
Yeah, you don't have any speakers in the chamber or online. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Commissioners' comments.
I think it's a very well drafted document. I think it's going to be valuable in the future, and I'd like to thank staff and the subcommittee that worked on it. It's very clear and to the point.
Thank you.
I likewise, I think the same. I just wanted to make sure that any document is organic, and then we're going to learn from the road and then come back and change whatever needs to be changed. And that'd be great. Thanks.
I would think that because it's not an ordinance as such, it's a policy, that it is organic by nature.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
because we'll see what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Mhm. Anything else? Okay, yes?
Yeah, I just think that this will really help kind of push just the inclusion of more artwork and murals on buildings, and just kind of liven up the city. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So, okay, so now I wanted to add, after the environment or landmarks, or other existing artworks.
That's it. Okay, that's a correction we'll make.
Yeah.
And I support the concept. I support your goals with that.
Yeah.
That addition.
Okay. I had a little problem with the next paragraph that almost ends with, as identified in the public art program's guidelines. Are you thinking back to our general mural guidelines?
Yes.
Okay. And on the 5th page, I assume, let's see, that 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4th bullet point, as part of the grant agreement, I assume that working muralists are familiar with that. It says, as part of the
waiver.
grant agreement on page 5, the artist has to required to waive their rights of integrity and right to prevent destruction, et cetera. They're going to understand.
Public artists are usually familiar with that because sadly they have to do that.
Are
To do
you
public
talking about
art.
the California Art Preservation Act? the language that's in there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Federal
So-
value.
And we'll have it, in parentheses, you see, we'll provide the link to
Right.
that there. So if they're not, they will be able to follow that.
Right.
and
I just
proceed.
wondered
Yes,
if they
thank you.
generally are.
That's helpful, yeah.
And then my last question or comment has to do with the last bullet point in that section, to attach a display plaque or freestanding sign. I don't remember that we discussed freestanding sign. How would that look?
It's not that common, but sometimes public art is on a small sign rather than on the wall.
Uh-huh.
Not as often for murals, but if in
Okay.
certain circumstances, it might be better than like a curved wall.
Okay. Right.
So Chair, if you're seeking a motion, staff would suggest that whoever makes the motion include the modification that the chair suggests on page 1,
Okay.
just so we have that in the record.
Okay. Is anybody ready to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to, that we reviewed and approved the mural matching grant program guidelines, and we authorize opening the program to applications beginning in the fall of 2023.
And you might want to
Commissioner Clapper, yeah.
There's an issue here because is this the review itself that we're making now, or we're going to further review the mural matching grant program?
Well, staff believes you've completed your review,
Correct.
so the motion would be to approve.
To just approve, yeah.
And you could approve it as modified,
Per the suggestion of,
yeah, on page 1, yeah.
yeah.
And we'll know what that means.
So revision, we move to approve the mural matching grant program guidelines and authorize opening the program to applications beginning in fall 2023 and subject to the edit suggested by Commissioner Emanuel on page 1. Thank you.
Just a second.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
The secretary call the roll for a vote.
Commissioner Clapper,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dresser,
Yes.
Commissioner Lemot,
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith,
Yes.
Chair Emanuel.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. This was tremendous. This is your swan song here.
I appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
I know.
So
Okay.
we're gonna
Let's see. So now we are down to reports on projects. And we have the Public Arts Project Report, please.
Thank you very much. So a few things I'll cover briefly. In the terms of the Public Art Fund budget, as you know, in January, your commission recommended the proposed budget for fiscal years 24 and 25. And we just wanted to report back, these were included in the city's adopted budget. As planning for each of our projects moves forward, we will not need to go back to council unless we have any purchase or contracts individually that exceeds the city manager's signature authority. Otherwise, everything can go just through staff up to the city manager. His signature authority is $85,000 or under. It's not likely that we'll exceed that. Also, FYI, the balance as of today of the Public Art Fund is $1,400,820. And that's an increase from April, when I last reported, of $37,700. Between new revenue and some expenses, it's kind of a nice increase. So that's that. I have a number of maintenance and conservation updates. You go to the first image. Veterans Memorial Plaza re-landscaping is all completed. This is, you may remember how it looked at one time and in disrepair. The grasses were a bit overgrown and a lot of the birch trees were dying and the fountain basin was beat up. So the next image has new landscaping, all new drought-tolerant ginkgos. The artist was present on site and collaborated on placement of the ginkgos. Can you go to the next image? So we've had a whole makeover of the Veterans Memorial, including the fountain repairs that preceded the landscaping. So this is an interesting artwork because it's a living work of art that will grow into itself over the long term. The city's commitment is to honor veterans, and our program, the commissioners and the public art, has re-envisioned this for the climate challenges we're coping with and we will continue to face. Next, please. The fountainhead, we are working on improvement to that. We had the fabrication firm that whose principal was the original fabricator to assess the damage. You can see you can't see in this image, but it's bubbling on the back of the head. But in this image, there's a lot of the fading, which can, with a lot of effort, can be scrubbed off. So there are two options. He's working up an estimate. There are two options. One is to restore this head, if possible. The other is to remake the head, if it's not possible to restore. So we have budgeted $70,000. If that is not sufficient, we will report that back to you and see where we can go from there. The next image is kind of fun, though. It turns up all the time. There's a reference in Diablo magazine. Where is this artwork? So people, it is a landmark, speaking about landmarks. You go to the next image. At the last meeting, I reported to you that at John Muir Medical Center, there's an older artwork by Gordon Huther. It has several elements, but this is one of them, called River of Light, a glass walkway meant to represent a river of blue dichroic glass. But over many years, it became damaged by expansion and the weight of cars and pedestrians going over it. May not have really been probably not have been in that used in this capacity, because cars drive over it. But since the last meeting, they've replaced this glass with all new terrazzo. Next image. So this is today. This is all terrazzo, very, very durable, theoretically permanent work, just like old movie theaters as you go into them in the lobby and in the front foyers and stuff. So it's slightly different look, but it creates the same effect. So this was all done with the artist's blessing, with a different contractor than the original. And to staff, it's really a good model as terms of private owners of public art and their maintenance thereof, because the original materials failed, but the owners thoughtfully refabricated it with guidance from the original consultants. Come up with something that worked. It's not identical, but it will last. And let's see, next image, please. And then, oh yeah, so Hand of Peace, which is on long-term loan from a private family trust over in Civic Park, as you know, requires periodic maintenance, and the city does that approximately every 2 years. This year, the work took place from May 30th to June 1st. With a team of 4 conservators from ARG Conservation Services who did overall cleaning of the work and reapplied a protective wax coating. They repatinaed a discolored area near the base of the hand. And let's see, is there another image of this? Yeah. Real daredevil work. Go back one. And the work, this work cost just under $15,000. They give us recommendations at the end, which include regular maintenance. There's also a sealant joint at the base, which needs to be recaulked every 10 to 15 years, but we last did it in 2020, so it'll be a while. So we should be able to just get by with routine maintenance. And then next image is the cleaned up hand looking just great. Just go to the next slide. And then just quickly to tell you, there's some private development projects in the pipeline and report on their obligations. So Cali Craft Brewery project is happening at Shadelands. They will contribute 1% fee in lieu. I don't have an estimate on the amount at this time. The Ebmud Corporation Yard and Maintenance Facility is located at 2658 North Main Street. Is going to be doing upgrades and site improvements. They're going to demolish and replace the existing administration building and other things like that. And they have also noted they're going to contribute to the Public Art Fund rather than providing on-site art. I don't have a number yet. And another project that just came online is the Model Bakery which has several retail stores in Napa County, is developing the former La Fogata restaurant space at 1315 North Main. They are not expected to have to contribute because their project cost is probably under $500,000. But when they went to the DRC, the draft resolution says there's a condition of approval. If the budget goes up, they owe a public art requirement. So they are, everybody's alerted to that. And the last item on updates is that a commissioner had inquired about the crate and barrel remodel, interior remodel, whether that was going to be subject to 1%. There is, in fact, a 1% for art requirement based on their square footage and budget threshold, and the 1% obligation would amount to something in the range of $19,000. Now, the Special Projects Committee that we formed approved, and the Arts Commission reviewed in April, a mural by Casey O'Connell on the exterior of the remodel building that, in fact, was intended to fulfill their requirement. We had a misunderstanding about that, so that is actually meant to fulfill their requirement. We are appreciative that the applicant chose to work with us to help choose an artist, Casey O'Connell. Since they have been through a review process already, staff is satisfied they have fulfilled their obligation. However, since it is a required work now rather than elective, we are going to require them to submit a final budget at the end of the project because they have to validate the expenditure of the minimum 1% for art. My understanding is actually quite exceeds that minimum, but we will get that on the record. We would not need to ask for the budget if it was purely elective. And that's the update on past projects. And then just a reminder about two upcoming projects for your review that were postponed. One is the Holden project at 1221 Rossmore Parkway. It's a senior living and care facility. We had thought they'd be coming in July. They'll most likely be here in October for review of a site and artists. And the Montego Senior Living project at 1455 Montego Way, which is about a block away from John Muir Health. We have met with the developer. They have selected a preferred artist, and we're going to approach that artist, but we can't go on the record yet with a name until they can confirm their interest. So we have moved forward on that, and we have an estimated budget there is approximately $50,000. That we hope to bring to you also in October. That's my report.
I do have a question. The $70,000 for the either refurbishing or replacing the fountainhead, is that amount for either or? So like if you go one way or the other, still $70,000, or are there savings if we just make the repairs?
That's what we're waiting on, is the estimates of what those things will cost. $70,000 is what we estimated,
okay,
and that's budgeted. So that's all we have budgeted.
Okay.
We're waiting to hear about the alternatives and what those will cost.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Did Veterans Memorial come in under budget, at budget, or over budget?
I think it came in slightly over, but not for public art. There was some additional costs for trees that Public Works helped with. We didn't exceed the allocation that we put out. Thank you very much.
Plan. Oh, next item is the Leisure Center Strategic Plan. Carolyn, thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Carolyn Jackson, General Manager at the Leisure Center. Since we're late in the evening here, I'm going to be rapid fire on my updates. We had a very successful Fiesta Cultural, our first festival celebrating Latin American art and culture. We welcomed over 7,000 people during the week. And from ticket buyer data, we know that 1,500 of those were new buyers to the Leisure Center. We expect there were a lot more newcomers who were part of the street fair, but we didn't gather, their information at that portion of the festival, but very exciting and very successful for us to continue to expand and diversify our programming. Part of the plan included two key positions that needed to be filled. One is the artistic director for Center Rep, and we are very, very excited to welcome Matt Morrow on August 7th full-time. He's been plugging in part-time as he makes the move from San Diego and his current company, Diversionary Theater. So August 7th we'll have his full-time attention, and we'll be introducing him at your next meeting in October. We also will be starting a recruitment for the marketing supervisor for the Lesher Center, the first ever full-time marketing position for the center. So we're working with a recruitment consultant now, and I expect in the next few weeks we'll be able to release that, and we'll be sharing with you and with a variety of our arts networks that opportunity, and look forward to welcoming that person to our team to manage collective marketing for the center. So Bedford Gallery, Center Rep, the Lesher Center at large, rentals, all aspects will fall to this person. Speaking of which, the 23-24 season brochure should have arrived at your homes. And I hope as you were looking through it that you saw really the power of presenting what we do collectively, that, you know, all of the programming at the center comes together in a way that's really impactful, and that our updated branding really kind of makes sense of all these moving parts and how they add to the vibrancy of what we do. And in this coming season, we're looking forward to focusing on expanding our education and outreach programs. That will look like artist residencies as part of the Headliners series, the Arts Access program, programming at the gallery. Really, how can we deepen some of those connections with artists, and how can we bring them outside of our walls into schools and other community groups? And we'll be presenting the concert truck in spring of 2024, which is a fully outfitted truck for 2 classical musicians who can take it anywhere you can park a little truck and perform right there, a full, live performance, and they're really exceptional musicians, and so that's one way they're able to bring the arts outside of concert halls, is by bringing this truck around the country, and we're lucky to have them coming in spring 2024. That's my strategic plan update.
Questions or comments? I have a comment. Just yesterday, I was talking to a new prospective docent. She's lived in Walnut Creek most of her life. She's retired, and she said, I noticed something really new going on at the Lesher. It was just amazing. I said, oh, tell me about it. She says, it's just, there are such a variety now and so much to choose from and different things. It's not just little neighborhood theater anymore. So I wanted to pass that on.
Thank you, Jane.
Okay, thank you.
If we're on staff updates, I'll just stay here.
Staff update.
So coming up, this week we have Young Rep, which is our intensive theater training program each summer, celebrating 50 years this summer. Their showcases are this week, so we're looking forward to seeing the results of all of their training this summer, including musical theater and directing and acting. This Friday, the 28th, is the final Headliners performance of this season. It's Diane Reeves, amazing jazz artist, and we're very excited to share that we have exceeded our ticket sale goals for our 22-23 Headliners series, so it really speaks to how people are reacting to what we're presenting. Center Rep has single tickets on sale for next season. That just went live on Friday. We have our Pay What You Can preview performances, so you can select online any price that works for you. And we also will be kicking off with Crowns, which is a really fun musical about African-American gospel church and the kind of elaborate headpieces that go along with that. It's a really fun and exuberant story. And I don't want people to miss the Northern California premiere of a new musical, Mystic Pizza, coming to Walnut Creek in February of 2024. Single tickets on sale now, so get yours while you can. We're excited to be partnering with a new production company, and again, as part of the strategic plan, forging these partnerships for really high quality events. And on August 20th, our Arts Around August initiative this year will be Family Art Day at the Lesher Center, a combination between Center for Community Arts, Bedford Gallery, and Lesher Center staff, where we're looking at some art making, some live music, story time in the gallery, really kind of having a cohesive opportunity for folks to experience art indoors and outdoors. So you can see all those details at lesherartscenter.org. Thank you.
Well, Emily's coming up here. Miley Ogasawara Garcia is online, and she was going to give you an update for the Center for Community Arts. Miley.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Miley Ogasawara Garcia. I'm the program manager with Center for Community Arts. Like Carolyn just shared, we are very excited about Family Art Day at the Lesher. In addition to that, we are also working with the Youth Leadership Commission for our first ever Teen Arts Night. It'll be an evening event at Shadelands. That will take place on September 9th, and we're still working out some details, but we're very excited to see that move forward. And also, we have our Holiday Handcrafted coming up in December. It's a little bit far for that, but we did open up our applications for our artist vendors and our teaching artists to apply to be part of that sale. So applications will open on July 31st, and they'll run through September 1st. So we're excited to welcome new artists and some of our returning artists to this year's Holiday Handcrafted sale. Thank you.
Any questions?
Good evening, commissioners. Emily Enders, curator at the Bedford. I'm going to make this very, very fast. So I'm going to talk fast, which is one of my areas of expertise. So in July, I know I'm pretty sure that everyone knows that we moved to a pay what you can community model, which means that admission to the gallery is now up to the visitor. So we have a suggested donation. They can pay more if they'd like, they can pay less, and they can also come in completely for free. And that is part of our whole initiative to make the gallery and the Lesher Center as a whole a place where everyone belongs and feels like they can come and visit. Sight Unseen is up now, closes mid-September. We've gotten great press for that. We were on NPR and got interviewed by Alexis Madrigal for Forum, which was very, very exciting for myself and for the gallery. He's a hero of mine. Bits and Pieces opens end of September, and we are doing a series of workshops with two of the artists. One is a weaving workshop. The other will be creating your own mini gallery. And we are actually also starting a new event series called Cocktails and Conversation. Our first event is August 24th, and that will be with Doug McClure, who is the curator for the show that we have up now. And he will be doing a gallery tour. And you can come and have a seasonal cocktail and also some snacks. And similar to Miley, we have Craft Fest happening again this year. Our application process is essentially the same, and that opens August 1st and closes August 31st. But that is for any crafters in the area that want to apply. So thank you.
And Emily, Craft Fest is what day?
November 18th from 10 to 5.
Mark your calendars. Two quick things for me, Chair. One, I just want to confirm the Chair and the Vice Chair have on their calendars the breakfast with the Mayor, which I think is next Friday. If not, I can check with the City Clerk. Monica, can you check with Susie about that? At least it's on my calendar, but I'm out of town. So there you go. The other thing which is important is the council considered at their last council meeting last Tuesday the outreach for the new community center and pool at Heather Farm Park. So a lot of discussion about how to engage the community and some different design concepts. But one of the things that's most relevant to you is there's discussion about the public art component, which will be part of that $50 million construction budget, roughly. Don't quote me on that yet. But the city is also obligated to contribute 1% toward public art. And so because this is a public project, there'll be a different process, which is a selection panel will be part of that. And so it could be as early as October that we come to you and say, hey, let's get started on this process early. So public art can be either integrated into the specific component of the concept there on that site or somewhere within the park proximate to the construction. So very exciting. The council was asking about this. And so I said, yes, we'll be involved in that. So you can be thinking about how at some point this will be coming back to you as a commission to approve location, artist, and concept. But before we do that, there'll be a selection panel that helps to guide the process. So very exciting that this is coming to realization. So stay tuned on that. And then I think you know this, but I'll say it anyway. This is our public art manager, Steve Huss's last meeting, unless you're having a special meeting between now and October. which I'm not recommending. But if you do, Steve has to come back. But otherwise, and Chair, I know you have some words as well. So I will just say that on behalf of staff, on behalf of the city, thank you to Steve Huss for his leadership, his vision, his humor, and guidance to all of us throughout the public art process. Steve has been instrumental to what you see in this community around public art. And so, Chair, I'll let you speak more about Steve, but I just want to say thank you publicly to Steve Huss. Thank you, Steve. That looks just like you up there on the screen. What do you know?
It's going to be permanently right there in the I was trying to figure out when you came, and it was before 2016. So it's 6 or 7 years, I think. I can't believe it. Time flies when you're having fun.
I think it was 2015.
Somewhere around then.
yeah.
But anyway, you've really put your imprint on public art in Walnut Creek, and there are so many facets of your job and what you do, and you balance them so well, and your presentations are so thoughtful, and I hate to see you go, but I wish you luck. We all do. And after the meeting, we have a little presentation for you.
Oh, man, this is
And
getting better.
we wish you well.
Thank you
Anyone
very
else
much.
wanna say something?
Excuse me, I just want to say, Steve, how much I've admired you. You know, being a staff member, especially the one that's out in the public a lot, has a public presence, is hard work, and you've always handled it with grace, and you're totally believable in everything you say and do, and so I've really come to admire your work, and I know you're going to love retirement.
I echo everyone's comments, and I've learned a lot from you, and I am so thankful that I was here during your tenure. And Walnut Creek is much the richer because of the work that you did here. And I wish it wasn't so soon that you were leaving. But I also understand that there's another stage in life, and I wish you the best in that. Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to thank you. I haven't been on the commission for long, but you've been presenting every single time I've been here, and just your dedication and your efforts to Walnut Creek's public artwork are just really admirable, and I wanted to thank you for all of that effort that you put into our city and to our art. So thank you.
Unless someone has anything else to say, I think we are adjourned. I didn't give you a chance to say anymore.
I know you're, just thank you for the kind words. It's very meaningful. Thank you.
Okay. We'll get that in the record.
That's not
We didn't get to talk about what we've been up to, Gina. We didn't get to talk about what we've been up to as a commission.
Oh, well.